Let me just, before I start my speech, to give you a little brief about myself, to know who am I and what background I came from and how I became against the coup in Egypt. My name is Ayat Oraby, and I'm an Egyptian journalist. I used to work in Egyptian TV. This is how I started my working life in Egyptian TV. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, as someone working Egyptian TV, that has to belong to Egypt government. And this is how I was actually until I left the country. I left the country a long time ago. I've been in the state for 21 years since I got married, and I moved with my husband, and I started to build my family. I have 4 children, 2 of them in college and 2 in elementary school. And I was in Egyptian TVs until 2001. Then I quit because I had to work for Arab radio and television, which is called ART. I used to have 2 famous programs in that TV. I got an award for the best Arab announcer or presenter in America for 3 years in a row. And this is just a brief background about me, to know I'm not from Muslim Brotherhood. I'm not presenting anyone from Muslim Brotherhood, because since I was activist against the coup, that was the threatening, and that was, they say that about me and about anyone actually against the coup. If you are against the coup, against the regime, so you are Muslim Brotherhood. So I don't know how you know how Muslim Brotherhood look like, but actually I am not. But anyway, I'd like to thank you all, people who believe in human rights issue in Egypt and Gaza. And I'm gonna start actually right away from one event that occurred in Egypt, that was the Rabaa massacre. In 12 hours, thousands of peaceful protesters were killed and others thousands injured in removing Rabaa sit-in last year, specifically on August 14, 2013. And I will get actually to the media role and how they played a big role after I just give you the brief presentation about what happened exactly that day, because I want you to live in the situation. I had a video, but it's not available now, about the media and about how they celebrate the people who were killed in Rabaa, to just to let you live in. But I will. I don't know why it's not here, but it's okay. Anyway, that day, a lot of people were killed, and a lot of people were swift to rescue their besieged fellow countrymen, but were brutally driven away in a massacre that continued in 12 hours. All kinds of arms were used against peaceful, unarmed protesters. Sniper rifles from rooftops. And this is, I actually saw on TV, and people were in Rabaa sit-in, they said that they used to see the snipers just killing people from rooftops around the sit-in. Tear gas, helicopter, military bulldozers to storm in the sit-in camp. You can just imagine. Helicopter, sit-in, gas, everything just against peaceful people that the media back then used to say, oh, this sit-in has a lot of weapons. If there were weapon, actually, you won't even have 1,000 or 2,000 people were killed. That would be even more. That day, they did not discriminate between women, children, and old people. The only crimes those protesters committed was to refuse a military coup, in the course of which the first democratically elected president was ousted and kidnapped. I say kidnapped because this is what exactly happened. He was not just ousted, he was kidnapped 3 days before the military coup. The military coup was on July the 3rd, after what they call it, demonstration against him on the June 30th, but he was kidnapped even before that day. So this is why when I appear on the media, I always say he was kidnapped. And as I told you, the only crime those people committed was just because they refused the military coup. Some eyewitness, and I have one right here in this hall. If we have like 2 minutes, I would like to invite her. She was in Rabaa sit-in, and she saw everything, and I would invite her after I finish my speech to just tell you what exactly happened, what she saw. And she eyewitnessed, so maybe you believe her even more than a media person just like me. Anyway, some eyewitness even said that police dogs were sent in to get rid of any human remains due to the use of the explosive bullets that exploded heads and bellies of the protesters. The coup militia, this is how I call it also, composed of both the Egyptian army and police forces, set both camps in Gaza and Rabaa ablaze and burned them. I hope we have some pictures here to see like how they burned those camps. And some of them actually were even taken down by snipers while leaving the massacre that day, later that day. Some of those who remained alive were taken prisoners and berated on the government TV stations. And some other managed to flee the massacre. Women were shot down, kicked and beaten, detained and humiliated. Some women were even forced to bow and kiss the military shoes of the coup militia members. Governments of the world did not even dare to take serious measures against those criminals, while the whole world remained silent. Families and martyrs were searching for the corpse of their beloved ones. Some of the corpses were loaded by military bulldozers and moved to collective graves in the desert outside Cairo. According actually to some eyewitnesses, it is worse than that the number killed in only 12 hours exceeded the number of civilians killed over a month in Gaza. And those people killed in Gaza, they did not even killed by their own government, but the people were killed in Gaza, they were killed by the Israelis Air Force, as you know. After the massacre, more than 40,000 people were detained and tortured. Women paid a heavy toll. I always talk about women specifically because I have a magazine in America called Maisonneuve, and specifically we talk about women and women's rights. So I care more about women, but for this case, I care about all Egyptians. But anyway, women paid heavy toll and were raped, and only 50 cases were recorded. One girl, actually, I saw her mom on YouTube, and I hope I will give you the name of the tape so we can even watch it. One woman she was visiting her daughter in the prison, and she was asking her daughter, "What do you want me to bring next time?" And she said, "A birth control pills." You can imagine what's happening inside the prisons to girls get raped by the forces over there. The world actually continued to remain silent, and the Egyptians continued to bleed their freedom and their blood. The date of 14th of August 2013 will remain a black stain in the face of humanity. A day in which thousands of innocent civilians were killed in the worst massacre ever in the modern human history, according to Human Rights Watch reports. Today, we commemorate those who paid their blood for defending freedom and democracy. This was a brief description, as I told you before, about what happened specifically that day. Now I will give you more details about violations that occurred in Egypt since January 2011. Security forces have been practicing all forms of violation of human rights. Female protesters, university students, activists, journalists have been exposed to countless assaults, whether physically or verbally. I remember in January 2014, in the memory of January 2011, we have a memory every year since that day. On that day, the press conference was held by several human rights groups, revealed shocking reports of security forces violations against Egyptians in a 3-year-old revolution that is still making its way among chaos and anarchy. The press conference was under the title of Injustice Arms. And journalists syndicate, the member that took part in the conference were Al-Nadim Center, Egyptian Initiative for Personal Rights, the European Economic Cooperation Center, and Hisham Mubarak Law Center, and Nazra of Feminist Studies. No military coups also that was part of the press conference. In the report prepared by the human organizations that took part in the conference under the name Injustice Arm, the Ministry of Interior does not need a law to practice oppression. However, the state invent new law violation citizen rights, such as protest law, that led to arresting a huge number of youth, and the score are waiting to be verified. The report added that the security forces in Egypt released whose detention appeared more harmful than release, like girls, journalists, and lawyers, but keep youth unknown for media. They could not remain for weeks in unknown places until their families know where they are, where their location. They just take them any place, and they did not even record them. So this is why some of human rights reports, they couldn't have a record of the numbers were detained in Egypt prisons until now. All what they know is 26,000 people. Now they get raised to 40,000 people, and the real numbers even worse. They said over 120,000 people, Egyptian people, in the prisons. And even the human rights report, 2 minutes is not enough. I have a lot to say about Egyptian media, so I'm gonna steal 2 more minutes, okay? It's okay, right? Okay, the human rights report said it's 980 people were killed in 12 hours in the worst massacre ever in the modern human history. But the real number, over 6,000 people. But the human rights organization could not have the record because the people were burned and the bulldozer actually took them away. So they couldn't find identifications, they couldn't find anything to have the record, to have it like written in the report. Since July 2013, university students, just like you guys, you have been here in Canada, you are Canadian, you have all the freedom to, if you have any a different opinion, you can just go and say it. But in Egypt, no, you can't. Since that day, university students have been at the forefront battling the military coup. In the last 14 months, demonstrators was the most vibrant and determined group resisting the return of Mubarak regime. I'm gonna go very quick to the media, actually, right away because he's raising the 2 minutes for me. So I'm just gonna go to the media, what happened, what the media actually did, what's the role. And, but anyway, let me just go back quick to around 5,000 people in Teku, Egyptians at least, were massacred according to the press report since the 3rd of July coup. And up till now, police and army troops committed more than 12 massacres, starting with Bain al-Sarayat. Of course, those names you're not gonna be familiar with them, but I'm gonna say it because some Egyptian people, they know the names very well. Bain al-Sarayat massacre, passing by Republican Guard massacre, and the Purim massacre, and Rabaa massacre. About 25 women and 41 minors were killed, according to the Human Rights Watch report. The incidents of systematic broad range killing in Rabaa and others committed by the security forces and Egyptian army as well. 44,000 people among the report in the prisons, but the reality is more than 120,000 people in the prisons. The Egyptian women actually were subject to grave violation, the great violation under the coup, and particularly the university students. I'm gonna go right away to the media. Yeah, he is this is why we were trying to finish quick. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna go to highlight what the Egyptian media role in Morsi's time, which is the first elected president. Egyptian media outlet played a key role in splitting Egypt nation. Now, Egypt nation is not the nation that we used to live in. We used to live in one nation. Now, it's a splitted nation because Egypt have a big gap now since the June 30 protest and the coup. The first part that I will explain about what happened, all the documented human rights abuse and those abuses a year ago, was by the Egyptian media. Egyptian media was celebrated in the Egyptian TVs. People work in the media were congratulating each other and congratulating the nation when Egyptian army and security forces removed the sit-in of Morsi's supporter in Rabaa and Nahda Square. And this is what we and the latest report from Human Rights Watch report called a massacre. Stories about Muslim Brotherhood selling Suez Canal to Qatar. Stories about selling the pyramid. Stories about the Islamists are seeking to destroy the pyramid. Stories about the Islamists covered one of the statues of a big and famous feminine singer. She's a Kulthum. They said, oh, they're gonna cover the statues just because she's uncovered. And the stories about Islamists are going to include an amendment in the new constitution to lower the marriage age for women or girls to 9 years old. And also the most interesting story is Morsi is an agent of Israel. And not only that, he's an agent of Hamas. Hamas and Israel. So he's an agent, he's a double-faced agent. And the funny one for me actually, to people who really make researches and do an analysis, that the Morsi is brother who is dying Egypt, who's making all Egypt government to be brotherhood. I don't know how, because the ministries of Egypt, only 3 ministers in Egypt were Muslim Brotherhood. But anyway, the media over the year, without even evidence, they used to say that. And people, they believe. Right after the ousted of the President Morsi, they started to call Muslim Brotherhood terrorists and disloyal to Egypt and so on and so forth. And now after attacking Sinai, which is not far from Gaza, you can hear people saying, one of the Egyptian people were saying, freedom, we don't want any freedom of expression, we don't want any freedom of opinion, forget about democracy, we don't want it. Nobody should take over this. This is how the coup uses its mouthpieces to mislead Egyptian public opinion in order to justify its crimes against Egypt and Egyptian citizens. So Egypt witnessed a lot of massacre, and what's happening in Egypt, what's happening in Sinai is not far from Gaza. This is all what we want to say about Egyptian TV as one of the Egyptian TV workers. And it's not only that, I used to work also for the Egyptian army for 1 year to present a program about the Egyptian army. I used to be there for the whole year just to present this program. I want to finish because our keynote speaker that I know that everyone came here for, and also I can hear from
Thank you very much, I'm sorry I have to play the mean role and stand and keep the time, but we need to go through our program this evening. So without further ado, and Khudra already presented the speakers and their background, so I'm just going to call on Professor Norman Finkelstein to take the podium and we will go.
I'm grateful for the warm reception, and I do look forward to speaking and also to having a serious interaction with the audience. I know this is Concordia College, and Concordia, at least from my recollection, tended to be a hotbed of support for Palestinians. I think in recent years, also in recent years, I think slightly critical of myself. So it'll be an opportunity for me to speak to the young people here, try to clarify my opinions, and maybe not persuade or convince you, but at least let's change ideas and see where we get. But before doing that, I hope you'll forgive me if I just make a small modification in the program. I do notice Nahla is in the audience. She's the young Egyptian woman that was mentioned by the previous speaker. And she's actually quite a remarkable person, because on the surface, you would think she would be completely on the other side. And yet, when you hear her speak, at least my experience listening to her was to hear a genuine conversion, not a fake or a Hollywood conversion. It's somebody who confronted reality, and the reality persuaded her that what she thought previously was wrong. And reality was a reality check for her. became an altogether different person. Well, not altogether different, nobody completely changes, but she became a different person, and from my experience, a remarkably impressive one. And I suspect you'll agree when you have a chance to hear her speak, so would you like to come? By the way, this is not planned. I just saw her in the audience.
Thank you so much, Norman, for the wonderful introduction. I don't really have anything planned for today. I didn't make a prepare speech. But I would really like to just speak between young activists in a room together, sort of to tell you guys why I decided to risk my life to go somewhere where it was not safe for me, in a country that I don't even live in. A brief introduction of myself. My name is Nahla Nasser. I'm French-Egyptian. I graduated from an engineering school in Paris, France. I am passionate about Egypt, and I was passionate about the freedom of all Egyptians, so I was really taken by the January 25th revolution. Unfortunately, I was not there, so after the military coup in Egypt, I felt the need to sort of go and see for myself what the media was speaking about. I knew there was a lot of things that the media were saying, and I did not agree with them, so I sort of just reflected on what I had seen before. And so I decided to go to Rabaa al-Adawiyya. I only actually wanted to go for one day, sort of get a view about on how the people are there, because I was seeing in the media that they would say these people have weapons, these people are terrorists or this and that. And so the first moment I walked into Rabaa al-Adawiyya, I knew that this was the place for me. I kept going back every single day. I have never felt so safe in my life. Other than a place in Rabaa al-Adawiyya Square. I would literally walk in, there were hundreds and thousands of people. I would literally walk in, and the men would open up the way for me so that I wouldn't be touched by anyone. And that was really something amazing to see in Egypt, especially with all the accounts of sexual abuses against women. The women of Rabaa al-Adawiyya inspired me so much. They were the strongest women I had ever met in my entire life. And I just felt so inspired by these women there, and how empowered they are, and how extremely strong they are. And so I decided to stay in Rabaa al-Adawiyya for the rest of the way until the massacre. I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of new family members. But to say that Rabaa al-Adawiyya changed my life would be a complete understatement. After the massacre of Rabaa al-Adawiyya, I had friends and friends who were either detained or killed, and I saw people in front of my eyes, children, women, and men losing their family members in front of their own eyes, brains bursting all over the place. This was by thugs, army, and police. And at the same time, they were in the media, they were saying that these people are armed and terrorists. So obviously the media was twisting the reality completely. And the problem is that the people believe them. And that's the biggest problem in our society today, is that people believe what they see in the media. And that is not the truth. In Egypt, they twist the facts completely. They make up stories. The first time I went up on stage, they said that instead of actually analyzing what I was saying to the people, the articles the next day came out making fun of my pants. That's all they could come up with. Make fun of my pants because I'm not covered, and I was wearing tight pants. The next time they said that I was being funded millions of dollars by the Muslim Brotherhood, even though I'm not a Muslim Brotherhood. I don't have any association with them whatsoever. There were also accounts about me getting millions of dollars from Qatar. And every day I look at my bank account and I say, where are these millions? So, anyways, just to tell you guys that we live in a free and fair society. And no matter how young you are, you guys can all make a change. You don't have to know everything about the politics. I did not know much about politics in Egypt. I just knew that these people were oppressed. These people have no channel whatsoever to make their voices heard. And we live in a society where we can make our voices heard. So we can help these people get their voices heard. So you need to take that into your own, take that into consideration use the free and fair society that we live in to your advantage, because these people do need our help. And every single one of you can make a change. Thank you very much.
One more time, Professor Norman Finkelstein.
Well, thank you for having me here this evening. And I'm going to try to do two things. First, go through what happened in Gaza this past summer, then make some comments about the relationship between Gaza and Egypt. And there are important comparisons worthy of taking note. And then during the questions and answers, I hope we can devote time to both the question of Egypt and a topic which I think is more urgent than ever. I think it's a little bit too loud, the volume, whoever's controlling it. Just a little bit lower, if you don't mind, because I can hear the echo. Okay. To talking about both Egypt and also the question of Israel and Palestine, the practical question, the question of the strategy, what to do, how to proceed, because judging by the news accounts these past couple of days, I think things are rapidly unraveling. I can't say I'm very optimistic about where they're headed right now, but there's always things to do and trying to figure out what we should be doing. And I look forward to hearing from you, even the vehement dissents from statements I've made in the past couple of years. First of all, what did happen in Gaza? In fact, there were some novelties in the last Israeli assault on Gaza. Operation Protective Edge, which began July 8th, ended about August 26th, lasted about 51 days. But on the whole, it was not unlike the previous operations, the previous massacres. I prefer the non-antiseptic term, massacres. It was not unlike the previous ones, though it was